I'm one.
You were?
Good morning. I will call the regular meeting of the Cook County Board of Commissioners to order, where our mission is supporting community through quality public service. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, just one. It's a grant from the North Shore Healthcare Foundation for the ropes team equipment, EMS, and Valerie will bring that up.
Okay.
So you could make that 5B.
5B. Okay. Put that down there for grant. Okay, anything else? Motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I've had a motion.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. At this time, we will have public comment. If anyone in the audience would like to step forth and have 5 minutes of concern to us, you can sign in on the paper.
Sure.
And then we will time you after you have signed in, please.
Hello, I'm Steve Watson. I'm from Devil's Track. Anyway, I came to say thank you publicly to Bobby Deschamps for trying, and to tell the rest of you five how disappointed I am in you guys for what you're saying to the people here is that you're willing to spend their reserves, but none of your own. And I think that's disappointing and shameful, actually. The second thing I want to talk about, I already talked about the sheriff thing at the truth and taxation thing, but I want to give you like 3 little things that Jeff has said recently that I hear on WTIP because I'm driving. But first time he goes, 5 million won't affect our taxes on the sheriff's thing because a bond is coming due and we'll just re-up it. Then he comes to the truth and taxation thing and says, which is true, that our taxes are a little less than a lot of the other counties in Minnesota, but there's only 9.2% of the land is public land. I mean, private land. You don't have even close to the people or even that many pieces of parcels to tax. And look at price of bananas, 99 cents here, 35 cents or 38 at Quick Trip and Two Harbors. You know, we have lots of expenses here that you don't have other places. So then he comes to the meeting and says last week that it doesn't matter that these big raises that the people were really complaining about because it didn't change anything because now that they have to pay 20% of their health care, so it didn't change anything. What I'm saying, what you're saying is that you want to raise taxes higher for everybody here. You have no qualms that's your program because out of your mouth speaks the abundance of the heart. That's so you're basically, I would call you a spendthrift. It's your job to rein him in, and I would hold tight on the reins. You know, your job should be to figure out how to get this less. Why couldn't I have a suggestion so that you understand how most people live here? Cut his pay to $40,000 and take away his health care and let him go to Erin and get Minnesota Care for a year. so that he knows how most people, so he's got to get an extra job to live here, and so that you know how most people have to live. And just discouraging to watch you guys, 14%, 17%, 6%, after you said it was going to be 3%. You still proved to your constituency that you don't really care about them and what people are saying. I can't tell you how many people tell me that it doesn't pay to come to these meetings because you guys don't listen. It doesn't matter. That's shameful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, looking over the consent agenda, does anyone have anything they would like to pull?
Motion to approve.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, moving right along here, we're going to hear from Emergency Management, and Valerie is going to do some updating and presentation.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to review our updated emergency operations plan and provide it to the community. Jurisdictions are required to maintain and update their emergency operations plan and review them annually through a 4-year review cycle, including year 1 as a review by the county board or municipality, year 2 by a regional review committee made up of various partners like other jurisdictions, military entities, utilities such as Minnesota Power or ELITE, hospitals like St. Luke's. Year 3 is a peer review by another county's emergency manager, and then year 4 is a detailed review by Homeland Security and Emergency Management Regional Program Coordinator. Cook County completed its Homeland Security Emergency Management Review with RPC Roy Holmes. Can I do something to correct this?
It's echoing.
Back up? Okay.
Correct what? That echo.
Okay. Thanks. So we just completed our review on November 13th with Roy Holmes, who is our RPC for Region 2. And I'm pleased to report that our updated plan has been passed. It's passed the review by the state. So today I'm bringing the updated plan to the board for information and acceptance. And while the plan has largely
Yeah, it helped.
The plan has largely remained the same and has passed its annual review cycles. Minor updates have been made to reflect current operations structure and the current context. So over the last year, I, along with our public health coordinator, have led several sessions with our medical stakeholders, including the clinic, hospital and home care, Public Health and Human Services, and Grand Portage Health Services, all of our partners, to update all the sections and language related to emergency medical response and to verify roles. This has been a great opportunity to strengthen the relationships, build confidence and response capacity, and knowledge of roles in executing our various plans. So I would just like to walk you through a brief overview of the changes. I did provide a copy of the updated plan, as well as you'll have a document there that's called the MinWalk, and this is the crosswalk that the state uses. It's made up of 71 different items that outline this Homeland Security Emergency Management mission areas and the core capabilities that each emergency operations plan has to address. So there's a copy of that for reference as well. That's the tool that we use to go through it line by line and make sure that everything is included in the plan and gets checked off. Just some overall changes that occurred to the plan. Deleted all reference to DLAN. DLAN was a tool that the state used. All the counties across the state had access to this system, which was called DLAN, and it was a incident management software tool where you could create an incident in the program and other counties could look at it. You could order resources through it. You could talk to Homeland Security Emergency Management, and they could kind of keep an eye on what was happening if you had an active declaration. It was very cumbersome. It never really took off. And that tool is no longer in use, and it has been replaced by a program called Web EOC, which is just being rolled out this year. And so we can tie into Homeland Security Emergency Management, as well as another tool called HISN. It's the Homeland Security Information Network, and that is a secure, private information sharing network that requires high levels of clearance to information share intelligence around the country. So the plan has deleted all references to DLAN, has been replaced with WebEOC and HISN. The MNWAC items, I just mentioned that, have been updated throughout. There's little references, almost like footnotes throughout the plan that shows which MNWAC item that relates to. All of that has been updated. I added in assets like the new Cook County Mobile Rehab and Command Trailer and deleted references to the former Lake County Command and Antenna Trailer. That was an asset that we used to be able to use. We now, in 2017, added our own mobile command trailer. So the plan has been updated to reflect that and how the protocol of, how that gets dispatched. On page 31 was updated to include the 2018 updated Northeast Minnesota Interagency Search and Rescue Plan. This is a cooperative effort between multiple jurisdictions, St. Louis County, Lake County, Cook County, law enforcement and search and rescue to develop the updated search and rescue plan. So that is also referenced as one of the plans and tools that would be used in emergency operation here. It was updated also to reflect Grand Portage Health inclusion and partnership in mass care response and planning. Our emergency operation plan is an umbrella for Cook County and Grand Portage. However, Grand Portage Health specifically was not mentioned or recognized, and they are a key partner in all of our response capacity, and so that language has been updated to include the same protocols. Also on that same page, on 33, inclusion of the Cook County Emergency Chaplaincy as one of the tools and resources that would be used in emergency operations. It's a newer program that was not in existence when the last version of this plan was developed, as well as reference to the Cook County Public Health and Human Services and Grand Portage Health Joint Infectious / Communicable Disease Plan and Protocol. That is another plan that we have just completed the review and update of in December through one of our stakeholder sessions. So that is newly updated as well. So language changed to reflect that. It also has been updated to reflect the commitment of Sawtooth Mountain Clinic to manage behavioral health aspects of any community emergency. We had behavioral health built into PHHS in the past. However, that component is no longer in-house, but Sawtooth Mountain has made the commitment to provide behavioral health services in a community emergency. We also added the Maple Hill STOP team. The previous version only had listed Hoveland. We actually do have 2 STOP scene control teams in the county, so they are listed as well. It was updated to include Arrowhead Animal Rescue, as well as the new regional pet sheltering trailer that can be deployed out of St. Louis County should we have the need for pet sheltering. Arrowhead Animal Rescue works with our extension service to provide for the pet sheltering components, which under law we are required to provide pet sheltering if we do have a community evacuation. But we do have the pet sheltering trailer that can care for 50 animals, the components for 50 animals under our pet sheltering and evacuation plan. It also identifies B.J. Kolstad, the Lake County Emergency Manager, as the designated backup under our mutual aid agreement. That's always been the way it was, but the plan lists and points to the mutual aid agreement, whether it's myself or somebody else who would need to take that over. It is outlined in the plan that is the designated backup, and her contact information is included. It also includes updated language to include the Chief Deputy and Emergency Manager to implement the emergency plan when necessary. It listed only the sheriff before, but there is IC authority under emergency management, or the Chief Deputy can enact the emergency plan and begin response operations. Also updated the name of Boreal Community Media and added the media resource of the Emergency Preparedness Portal. It was under a previous name from many iterations ago. It was updated to reflect the proper title of the sheriff's technician. That role had since changed since the last draft, and includes the Cook County Sheriff's Office and Public Safety Facebook page as a communication tool, and the communication chart, a way of outreach to citizens. Under the appendices, the plan distribution list was updated to reflect the current structures and position holders with their contact information. Once approved and signed by the board, the plan will also be signed by the City of Grand Marais because they are included under our umbrella plan as a jurisdiction within the county operations plan. And then it will be available on the county website, and the updated copies will be distributed to all those listed on the plan distribution list, which is one of the appendices in the plan. If there's any questions, I can certainly speak to those.
Thank you. A lot of updating.
It is. It's a lot of content in there.
A lot of content, that's right. Probably take a little bit of time to reread this ourselves, but
Yeah.
anyway. We'll open it up for questions or comments. Commissioner Severson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wow, Valerie, you spoke to a lot of changes, but a lot of depth and breadth to this plan that we probably take for granted on a daily basis until the big bad thing happens. And it's so interesting, the juxtaposition this morning of Steve's comments with this plan, and there's just this huge gap of misunderstanding of what this government does. And this is just a great example of the power and the complexity and the detailed management that needs to go into our protection on a daily basis, into our lives on a daily basis, that without good, strong people, committed people, highly educated, highly trained people as you are, we couldn't do the functions. So it's just interesting to me how that juxtaposition just is sort of in my throat right now. But thank you, Valerie. Really good, strong work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bergeron?
Well, thanks so much I've enjoyed working with you on the Emergency Preparedness Committee, and so really appreciate all you're doing. This is definitely a product of your talent and work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dukert?
And then we approve it, and then we start all over, and then we review it again. It's a never-ending cycle. I'm glad you're on top of it.
Well, it'll make the next piece of the cycle, which will be the county board review next year, very easy because you'll have some familiarization with it. Everything will be current and up to date. And certainly if there's opportunities to add anything in there, we can identify those. But it will be freshly stamped by Homeland Security Emergency Management and freshly updated with all of our community partners. So it's as current as it could possibly be for that review.
Yeah, it's a huge review. I remember doing it with Jim when I was the board chair, and it's a lot of work, a lot of detail. So thank you very much for getting all the parties together and getting it done.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of papers there. A lot of work to do. And I just had, on another note, how are our volunteer fire departments doing for volunteers wise?
Volunteer fire department recruitment is a challenge across the country, in Minnesota as well. We do have a small handful of new members that have been coming on or that are exploring training. I had a fire chiefs meeting last night, and we know of 2 for sure, potentially 3 that are going to complete Fire 1 and or 2 this year. But that does remain a challenge and will always be a challenge as a significant member of all of the departments across the state are reaching an age of retirement to fill those positions. But we are actively working to recruit through a number of different ways and provide the training and resources that we can to protect those that are on or that are interested in coming on, to know that we have resources and programs in place for them. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I was on the Colville Fire Department for like 6 years, and I think when I left, we had like,
Come back.
like
Yeah.
8 members or something.
We just had
You
2
know,
members
for this
join
fun work, you
Gunflint.
got to have them volunteers.
Yeah, we had 2 members join Gunflint that I will say are significantly over the age of 60.
Significant.
Significantly.
Significantly.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't want to discourage anybody of any age for coming out, because there's so many different roles to play in
Yep.
a volunteer emergency organization, whether it's on the board of directors or the relief associations, or driving, or
Traffic control.
planning, traffic control. Yeah, even, I mean, we're discussing the logistics of one of the ropes teams exercises that's going to be coming up as part of the emergency services conference. And while you may not be a certified trained ropes expert, any responder can haul rope and set up and play a role in that. So certainly want to encourage anybody who, ever wanted to be a firefighter or on a rescue team, if you've got time, to contact one of the departments and we can definitely find a role for you. Or volunteer with my office to help coordinate some of these things.
Thanks.
Have you presented this to the city yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yep, the county board is the managing authority for it, so want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row on this side, and then I will present it to the city council.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any further comment or question? All in favor?
Aye.
No by same sign.
Thank
Motion
you.
passed. Thank you.
we
Moving on then
also-
to the grant?
Yeah, we also added the item B, which is a fourth quarter grant from the North Shore Healthcare Foundation. Earlier this year, we had identified the need for a trained ropes, high angle and swift current ropes rescue team. There are a number of instances, calls that have occurred over the last many years, and a few significant ones this summer that called for that type of response, and we don't have it. We have not had a trained rescue team until recently. I worked together with Lutzen Fire Department as well as Search and Rescue to identify responders who would be willing to become trained and certified, and we were able to pull that together over the course of 2 full weekends at the end of October and trained our inaugural team of 8 members. I then applied for an equipment grant through the North Shore Healthcare Foundation to fund the cache of equipment and safety equipment and response or rescue equipment that's needed to perform high-angle ropes rescues, all the harnesses, the boards to lift folks out, as well as all the ropes that they would need to perform swift current rescue. This stuff is not cheap. Fortunately, the foundation recognized the value to the county, visitors, citizens, and that we have extensive miles of waterway and steep terrain here that this team could be an asset for, and they funded the request of $16,330 to set up all the initial equipment for the ropes team. So it will be a joint operation between emergency management and the ropes team, which is led by Lutzen Fire. The captain, Matt Cardis, is also the EMS captain with the fire department. And we will be working to purchase all of the required items, but I wanted to bring the grant to the board to acknowledge and accept that. We were fortunate to be able to identify an opportunity where we could get the funding that did not have to come out of county budgets, and make this a community partnership between entities without having a financial impact, but addressing that response gap.
That's great. When you think what we do have for terrain and outdoor recreation points in the county, this is a great way to have a trained team that can go to emergencies, whether you're hauling the rope, lassoing the rope, or actually helping the people who are going to be on the rope deal with heights and all of that type of thing. So it's great to, and thanks to the North Shore Foundation for this grant. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Deschamps?
Let's see. I went to the thing at the community center probably 3-4 years ago. I took the rope class there. It's actually pretty interesting what you can accomplish with rope.
Yeah,
We were pulling a pickup across the parking lot or something, so.
the new team will be doing a demonstration and training session as part of this year's conference in April as well. So please come out and see it in action.
Commissioner Dukert?
Trying not to be snarky. It's amazing at how many services that we provide that the community has to help support us so that we don't impact the taxpayers. So, I look at Narcan. That was a citizen donation to give us that to support our community. Now we have the ropes, which is important when we have lots of people that like to jump into Lake Superior off of cliffs, and different things that we do. And I know you get a ton of donations for the annual conference to run it that doesn't impact the taxpayers. And so I'll let Jan finish off on that because I know she has some feelings and it sits in there. But I mean, it's just another reminder of how completely resourceful and responsible you are. So thank you.
Again, very much needed here, and grateful for your leadership in trying to get this going. I'm sure you've had to work on it and make it happen, so thank you.
Mr. Severson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just again, thank you. I'm grateful for people like you who work hard in a plethora of ways, and also thank you to this community for having such great nonprofits that seek funding and bring a lot of money into the community that help us, and particularly in this regard, helps us stay safe, but it also helps visitors stay safe. The potential for rescuing folks in bad situations has just improved. So thank you very much for this. Do we need to, is this information only? Do we need to?
Motion to receive.
Yeah, accept the grant.
Okay.
Before you do that. Now, they haven't gone through the training yet. They're going to?
They have.
They have,
Yep.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eight crew members are fully trained and ready to go, but until we have proper safety equipment,
Right.
they can't actually respond.
Okay.
So this is what that's for. And then they also, the Healthcare Foundation has provided grants for 2019, and in our emergency services wish list is another sum of money for training an additional 8 to 10 members to join that team. So we will have members dispersed throughout the county. So we'll have a total of potentially up to 18.
Okay, wow. Wonderful. Okay, so I will need a motion to support this grant money that will be coming and putting toward the rope training and rescue.
Make a motion that we accept this grant with appreciation.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good information.
And I also provided you a bag with your
Yes,
reports
thank you for
there.
that.
I forgot to mention that.
Thank you.
And there are some here for public if they would like them. It lists all of the things that you should have in your emergency car kit or for a home emergency kit. So it's a nice little treat to throw things in your car if you're traveling anywhere over the holidays, and be prepared.
And we do have to travel a lot in this community.
Does it say dogs on there? Because last year I forgot my dog when I left town.
What's his pet food?
I had the food, I forgot
It doesn't take care of everything.
That would be up to you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Brady, who has a request.
Madam Chair, this is the annual resolution adopting the budget and levy, and this is the 2019 operating budget and levy. We approved the 5.99% increase to the levy last week, and this formalizes the main budget figures and that levy. So I'd ask for approval of that resolution.
Okay. Everybody have a chance to look this over? Okay. Questions or comments? So I will hear then a motion for this resolution.
So moved.
Support.
Any further questions or comments?
I'd like to comment on it. We had the meeting last week. We had the opportunity, with the motion I made, to put the tax burden a little less on the taxpayers. It was voted down. The night before, we had the Speak Your Piece thing, and that was about collaborating with people on stuff. And the comments that I've heard since that last meeting is, like Steve said, the people feel like they're not getting heard. You know, we sit here, no response, no collaboration with them. You know, the room was pretty full last week. You know, these are concerned citizens. They're not just here to complain. And that's why I voted or made the motion that I did last week. And, you know, I do support this operating budget, but I still can't support the 5.9 levy, so I will be voting no.
Okay. Any other comments? Concerns? Commissioner Dukert?
I understand Commissioner DeShaw's frustrations. I also get frustrated. We had town hall meetings, and I had 4 people show up. You know, town hall meetings are our opportunity to work together, to collaborate, to have discussion before the maximum levy is set. And I guess my frustration is, how do we collaborate? Because it's not when it's said and done. It's towards the beginning of the process is when you collaborate. So it is frustrating. It's frustrating when you can't respond. It's frustrating when citizens are hurting and are struggling. And honestly, it's frustrating when you're sitting here and you know that they are flat out lying to you. So it's frustrating on every level, and I don't know how to fix it. So someone has the answers. I would love to have them, but I don't. I agree with you. It's frustrating.
Commissioner Bershine?
No comments.
Commissioner Severson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that our role out in the community is one of collaborating every day. And I know I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis. And the room full of people expressing their opinions were just opinions that I didn't agree with. I've listened every meeting. We've had people come and tell us their feelings and their opinions about how we spend money, et cetera. And I've listened to every one of them. So it's not about not listening. It's about hearing another point of view when I'm out and about. And so I am listening. I don't agree with a lot of what was said here last week. And I'm out there collaborating every day with folks who also do not agree. So it's not that we're not listening. We're just hearing a lot of opinions, and there are a lot of different ways to look at our budget and our expenses. And Commissioner DeShaw, you just said yourself that you agreed with the expenditures, you just don't agree with the levies. So I respect that, totally respect that. And I just don't agree with that. So I believe when times are good, when the economy is good, we need to make preparations for when the economy will be bad. And it's cyclical, and it's we're kind of looking at maybe the 10-year cycle coming to an end again. So I just look at it as a long-term planning for stability rather than the ups and downs. It's not about feeling like we spend too much or too little. It's really about creating some stability and preparing for our day-to-day expenses so that we can do the good work that we just heard about from Valerie, so we can do the good work that we heard about from Jade Waldman this morning. the good work of Grace, the good work of the Law Enforcement Center, the Assessor's Office, all the appraisals that they had to accomplish to come into appliance in the past 5 years. I just want us to be good stewards and to be thinking ahead, planning thoughtfully and carefully, not reacting as we've been asked to do. So I'm just coming from a different place. It's not that I don't respect your opinions. It's not that I don't respect their opinions. I just come to a different, I don't agree with their opinions. That's the way it is for me. So I support this budget and I support this levy. And I will make a motion to accept this resolution adopting the 2019 operating budget and levy.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I think we already did.
We already did.
Oh, I thought we did.
Yeah, Heidi and Mary.
Heidi.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
Heidi
sorry.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and you had a second.
You're just reaffirming it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll go
Very
to
good.
the vote then. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed, same sign? Okay. Thank you on that. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I think that in some ways, you know, we sit here with the bigger picture, and it's hard to help other people understand that we have a lot of things out there that have to come together, and sometimes they do come together, and sometimes we have to work on them constantly to have them come together. So that's my hope for 2019, that we bring, as Jim Johnson said, the late Jim Johnson, Commissioner, said, we have a lot of things we have to deal with, and we'll be better people for doing that, and it may not always be in the best interest of us, but it certainly, hopefully, will be in the best interest of our constituents as we move along with the new budget year next year. So next we have Administrator Cadwell doing a updating on the bonding.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And this report was provided by Brady, and this is just information only, but you need to understand the context in the bond that we issued earlier this year. There was a list of projects on the capital improvement plan, and the list of projects in the capital improvement plan are the things that are eligible for the use of these bond proceeds. You'll see that we have, on transportation projects, the majority of the expenditures are in two projects, on the bridge replacement down at Lutsen and the CASA 17 construction. That we have, the majority of things we have left to do there is the paving of the CASA 17, the Mineral Center Road, and some of the engineering, accounting things related to 42 through 45 and 15. Under other capital projects, we had a budget of $2.054 million. The hockey rink is substantially complete. There's a few $1,000s held out for restoration of the area next spring. The warming building is in the hands of the Community Center Board, and they are working on getting that project completed. The playground, I believe that one was completed and the equipment for the second one has been ordered, so it's substantially, the costs are substantially represented. The Hovland shop is the next thing on our list, and that's the reason why I wanted to discuss this first, is you can see what we had for bond proceeds set aside there. The amount of money spent to this date is architectural and engineering services, that contract that we approved last year. The subtotal equipment, you can see what we actually spent, what that went for. Anyway, you can see that update. Are there any questions about this update?
Commissioner Severson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's really helpful to see it laid out like this, so I just want to say thank you for that. And it's good to know where we are standing. Summaries like this are extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Gershon?
No, it's useful information. I don't think I have any questions. I think we're the ongoing issues, the Hoagland shop, and appreciate efforts to bring that down. A workable number.
Commissioner Dukert?
No questions.
Commissioner DeShaw?
On that 4245 engineering, where were you sitting at with that?
I
You got
believe
any
there will be,
updates on that?
I think there will be a 90% plans public meeting after the first of the year. And then it'll be coming back to the board to prioritize and identify a source of funding for the construction project. If you look at the financial management plan, I think that there's a sum of money allocated towards road projects out a year or two. That's, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that there will be a 90% plan update after the first of the year. That'll be a public meeting again. And then we'll try to identify and prioritize the project and the source of funds to complete the project.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that update. Then you're going to present to us some architectural plans, and you need to approve that contract.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So where we're at with the Hoagland project is we have met internally. We met and reviewed with the Highway Advisory Committee earlier this month, and we determined that what we would do is work with the Meyer Group to come up with a modified set of specifications for the project, that we would change some of the preliminary specs for the project in hopes of reducing the cost, and that we would identify alternates that we would allow to be bid so that we get comparable numbers. There's one component that through all this planning, we were identifying that we needed 4 stalls. And through this planning with Charlie and the staff working there in Kristen, they said if we ever have a need for the loader and salt sand storage at that property, we will need 4 stalls. If we don't, then we can get by with 3 because we don't need to house the loader in this building at that point in time. I will still advocate for the fact that you can never build a garage too big, but we have identified removing 1 stall as a potential alternate on this project, and at that point, if that were to be the decision-making, then the commissioners would have to understand as they would authorize a project that if there was a need for salt sand storage on site, that instead of building salt sand storage, we'd be building salt sand storage and potentially a 4th bay on this project. And at this point in time, that 4th bay will be as cheap as it ever will be. Building it later will cost more. Those are considerations that hopefully we have to discuss. Hopefully in February we get good bid numbers that say we can move forward with the majority of this project. But I just wanted to identify the context around which that alternate is being added to the list. And then, of course, the contract we had with Meyer Group called for architectural and engineering and design, and then bidding, and then oversight of the construction process. This amended proposal is for $12,000. It is for the refinement of the specifications and overseeing a second bid process. It also identifies that they still owe us for the on-site construction management in the previous contract. So that's what I'd be asking for today is for the authorization to approve and sign off on this contract with the Meyer Group to carry through bidding sometime probably in January or February of this year. Our proposal is to have the specs completed and available for review by the Highway Advisory Committee the first week in January before they go public.
So what do they do today with salt sand storage? Do they have, is it just outside, or do they have it, or they're going to have it, or?
Where's the loader now? Is it shared?
Reservation River.
It's shared with the state at Reservation River. So as long as that is the case, then that's okay.
And the state has said that this is not a permanent solution.
That was with our previous engineer.
They've also said that it's not necessarily not a permanent solution. So I can't tell you with any certainty what would happen in 5 years. What I can tell you is if we get a bid that allows us to build the full 6,000 square feet in the budget that's allocated, That would be my recommendation. If we can't, then we would have to seriously consider the deducted square footage, because that would definitely bring us within budget tolerances. So we'll cross the bridge when we get there. Hopefully, we'll have good bids in February. One of the primary issues with the bids we got last year was they were all by builders who were going to be subbing out most of the work, which means they were building in additional profit in several places. Whereas if somebody bids this as a job they're going to do themselves, there won't be that many layers of profit. So that's why, even though materials have gone up, even though we're uncertain what steel prices are going to be in summer of 2019, we do believe we're going to get a project that we can move forward with.
Okay. Further comments or questions? How do you feel about that, Commissioner Deschamps, for the storage?
The thing that gets me is they say the bay is for salt storage. It's for a loader to sit in. I've got 4 loaders that sit outside all 365 days a year where I work. And this is, if you were to go down to the 3 stall plan, it would be for the plow truck, the grader, the rubber tired backhoe, and the pickup would fit in 1 stall, and the salt sand could get loaded with the rubber tired backhoe. And the loader that's garaged at, the county loader that is garaged up at Preservation River now in the MnDOT pit, is basically in a cold storage garage, so. But I think we're all finally getting on the same page here, you know, these aren't stuff that's coming from me, it's coming from our transportation board and Kristen and Charlie, and
Right. Okay.
I think our biggest
Well-
thing is just to stay within our budget.
Right. And you have experience with that. The only thing I know about sand is that I play in it when I go to the beach, but I have no perspective as to how all that needs to be done, and you have that perspective and the transportation group and all that, so we'll wait till, well, let's get this done first. Okay, any other comments or questions? So we need to approve the contract, is what is asking of us, to approve the contract with the Meyer Group. Yes, Commissioner.
So are we spending $12,000 to try and get a building for half the price, or do we understand that spending this money means we still might have $1 million building?
We are, well, this is just the price to redo the specifications as a result of the conversations that Commissioner Deschamps referenced, and to conduct another bid, because we put that all on them. When people call me and say, I'd like the bid documents, I shoot them straight to Meyer Group. When somebody calls and says, what were the results of that, I shoot them straight to the contractor. The contractor takes care of this for us. And I fully believe that we allocated $1 million towards this project. And we really have, at some level, owe the people who invested in the bond that we issued the development of that much in capital assets. Now, we don't have a whole lot of extra money in our fund balance at the Highway Department to pay for other things, so there's kind of a balance here. If we could get this building built for $850,000 and have the extra $150,000 to go towards the development of water and septic on site, that would be great. But if you look back at the original plan design, water and septic were outside of the initial costs for the building. So there is room, and hopefully by packaging up and identifying the alternates, we can make an informed decision about the overall project.
Okay. Motion to approve.
Support.
One other comment, Madam Chair, if I could. Kristen was fine with this cost for the additional services they're proposing.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further comments, conversation, questions? Yes.
Just one question. So, and Kristen was fine with this, and they're really, we have to do this. We don't really have any choice about doing this, except doing it in-house, but it would cost us, it would be much more difficult because we're not trained to do this.
And to back
That's
up,
why we hired
to back up and
Yeah.
have somebody else do this means we would be looking at an $80,000 architectural engineering instead of $12,000 addition
Very
for
low.
a second component.
For a new one.
We've already got the plan specs that we're
Got
happy
it.
with. We've
Makes
already
sense.
paid for the majority of that work. So yes, this makes sense, and it's reasonable for the additional component we're asking.
Great.
We knew that when we rejected the bids.
Right.
There would be additional costs.
That there would be additional
So.
for preparing bid documents.
Okay. Any further comment, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All righty. Moving on to Commissioner reports to notes to concerns. Well, I'd like to note this is our last board meeting for
Of this year.
2018. Any reports?
Madam Chair, I would like to give a final report.
State of the state address?
Yeah, from my perspective. But before I do that, because I really want to end on a positive note, because I know we've accomplished some great things in the 4 years that I've been involved in and prior, that we've really turned a corner and we're making some really good decisions that will save us money in the long run. They're not necessarily decisions that save you money, today, but a lot of the decisions that we've made and a lot of the things that we've accomplished have saved us money today. But I just also wanted to comment, again, because because of the public comment has been fairly, I'm just going to say personally devastating the last couple of weeks, and I think we need to make note of it's, okay, so at AMC, there was the session that talked about how to heal from that frontline stress piece. And we as commissioners serve on that frontline piece. And to say that we're not affected personally or otherwise by, and I'm going to call it bullying, is we need to deal with that. We need to deal with the stress that bullying is causing. We need to deal with and take responsibility for it for ourselves, but it would be very nice to think about in the new year creating a system for dealing with that, with bullying in the boardroom, I would call it. We've listened and listened and listened, and I think if we made some tweaks in the system, we could more appropriately create a more positive environment to hear and listen and also be heard, because I think that piece is, nobody stays for that piece. They all leave. They dump their criticism and then they go. And we need to change that system somehow. It's just a recommendation that I have. But but to ignore that feeling of what's happening to us is demoralizing. And it's demoralizing to us, and it's demoralizing to the staff, and it's demoralizing to the work that we do. So we need to come up with some better way of dealing with that, and some better way to combat the personal attacks. So they are not okay. It is not okay for us to even allow that to happen. We need to figure out a way to combat that. So that's just how I start the conversation. But we're going to lose really good people if we allow that to continue. It's not good. It's happening across the country. To empower bullying in the boardroom is not okay. So we need to figure out a way to better handle that, combat it, if you will. But on a positive note, what we've accomplished, my goal when I came on this board was to add value to the Cook County quality of life. And I knew that there weren't necessarily short fixes to that. When I came on board, the climate was, I would say there were a lot of disturbances. Our county administrator, Jay Keefe, had just died a few weeks before I came on board. There was all that grief that the staff were experiencing. And the difficulty with a system of newly electeds, et cetera, it's like you never quite know, and you never quite deal with those more serious issues. The courthouse shooting had occurred 6 years prior. Actually, less than 6 years, because the anniversary was just last week.
Yep.
And it was 7 years. And those are devastating energies that that affect us, even though we're not paying attention to them. So there were a lot of chaotic events occurring in Cook County, and particularly in the courthouse at that time. We had chaos in the highway department. We were running without an administrator. We had chaos on the board. We had just finished a project in Cook County called the GO Team, and the GO Team had identified some major challenges, and that the big one that stands out in my mind is the census. I can't remember which year the census we looked at showed that our population had remained stable. However, we had lost 200 young people and gained 200 old people. So that trend, I believe, is still continuing, which is a huge challenge for us today, and that challenge, as I've said before, is even going to become more dramatic. Allison spoke of it this morning when she talked about 100, not ours, 100 years of experience left Cook County in her department, Public Health Human Services, this year alone. We're going to be looking at a lot of that. So the idea of attracting and retaining young families to Cook County becomes an increasingly important thing to do. So I use that screen in all decision making. So when I support the Y, and I know, thank you, Commissioner Bershheim, for supporting the Y and supporting daycare, when we make decisions to do those things, there may be some money that we're spending now, but it's an investment in our future. And the Y has done an enormous good things in order to retain the young families that we have and attract new young families into the area. So we make investments, and we make investments wisely and responsibly for the greater good of all of Cook County, and particularly for the greater good, hoping that investment will begin to pay off for our children and grandchildren. Not necessarily for us today, but for the children and grandchildren. So the folks that spoke so vehemently bullying us, I just want to say to them, I'm looking out for your children and your grandchildren, and I'm hoping that they have a better Cook County to live in than you did. Because I know a lot of people that spoke to us have had very hard-working lives, and so I get where they're coming from in that and not only have they had hard-working lives, but they've been away. Most of the people that we heard from have been out of that system for a while. They've been retired for a while, so they're not as in tune with the cost of things as we are today. So those of us who are still working, and particularly in government, where we're working with huge numbers, and our decisions cannot be based on the same kinds of financial models that a family uses in Cook County. So a family economic model is not what we can use in our decision making. We need to use way more sophisticated models in order to make the decisions that we make. So first thing that we did, back to what we created positively in Cook County in the last 4 years, I just want to say hiring Jeff Cadwell has been an amazing, amazing thing. That steering committee or interviewing committee was unanimous in hiring Jeff Cadwell. That probably doesn't happen every day. I know most of the committees I've served on, there's rarely, when you're hiring, there's always conversation that is not usually unanimous. So I just want to say there has been great, we made a great decision, and Jeff Cadwell, you've lived up, against all odds, you've taken a lot of criticism, you've taken a lot of bullying, where you couldn't necessarily defend yourself and be the professional that we are. I just want to say, without Jeff Cadwell, we couldn't have made a lot of the other decisions that we made that have made Cook County a better place. And also thank you to the existing fabulous staff that we had, like Brady. You know, Brady, who's done the work day after day after day, has heard all the questions, has tried and generally succeeded in taking a very complex economic model and making it understandable for folks. That's an amazing skill. So starting with Jeff Cadwell, unanimous decision, which included many of the department heads, by the way, of Cook County. We had, but that, we still have to deal with the climate that we live in. So one of the first things that Jeff Cadwell advocated for was the balancing of the budget. And of course, after we haven't balanced the budget in 10 years, that's going to be a pretty dramatic scene. And the dramatic scene has happened in Cook County for the last 25 years. About every 10 years or so, there's that dramatic shift because we haven't acted responsibly, incrementally. And we haven't had a plan, and that's no fault of anybody's. It's the evolution of Cook County. We have one now. We created the tool with Ehlers so that we can make economically responsible decisions regarding our capital buildings and our growth and our any decisions that we make going forward. We have this fabulous tool that allows us to make good decisions. Balancing the budget has been a really difficult thing to do, which is where a lot of this stress has happened. And it'd be nice to see some kind of activity that this board could be involved in where we could productively and in a healing way deal with some of that stress. I don't have any answers. I don't know how you do that, but and treat us each of us more gently, maybe, or find a way to. And I also respect the way that we've dealt with it. I think we've dealt with it very respectfully and well. And I say kudos to all of us who serve in this capacity that we have been professional. But I think we could add one more layer of screening. We passed a 0.5% transportation sales tax, which allowed us to begin work on County Road 17. And the folks of the Pike Lake Road, I know, are going to be thrilled with that. Not a small task that we accomplished that will enable us to pay for our roads, which is largely what we do. We, provide access so that we can all live here. Access so we can all live here. We created the Citizen Highway Advisory Board to guide us in that process, so it wasn't just us making those decisions. People who are living on these roads on a day-to-day basis had input. They were able to create the priority list, so it feels like we've been inclusive, and we've created a positive impact. We did the staff. We've done so much work with staff, which is such an important thing to do in any organization. The compensation study was sort of how we started with that. We completed this task in sort of record time. Most counties take years and years and years. They never really do fulfill the study requirements, and we have pretty well accomplished it. Our systems are in place. We're completing all the job descriptions now, which allows a clear understanding about what everybody's role is. We have systems now in place for reviewing those job descriptions, and when people understand their roles better, everything works better. The staff now contribute 20% of their health insurance. That was not easy to accomplish. That will pay off in years to come. It'll pay off in expenses, but it'll also pay off in staff having and feeling that they have control over their health insurance and which kind of health insurance they want to afford or purchase. And all of these great staffing changes, for instance, blending the assessor's office with the planning and zoning, creating land services, has created efficiencies. It created a new department, Parks and Trails, which is an important department for a county this size, and particularly for a county whose main asset is its recreational piece. And if we really want to attract and retain young people, we have to provide good recreational opportunities for people. That's one of the reasons people love to live here, young families in particular. I think since we've made all those positive changes, our recent recruitments of new staff have gone a lot easier than they ever had before, and we're making really progress there. We're hiring great people to fill the positions that we have open. The public health person, well, the list goes on and on. The 2 people in the highway department we talked about today. Those positions had been restructured and have been open for a long time. So that's a huge accomplishment to fill those positions. We've have some new department heads, Allison McIntyre, lovely person. We've had a lot of retirements, Sue Footer, like we talked about today. So the 100 years was just this year's. I think last year's was even bigger, many more years in retirement, so that we can attract new people. We have an HR director, Judy Hill. We have, who's doing a fabulous job. That kind of structure needs to happen in an organization this size in order for everybody to feel that they can do their jobs better. A new assessor, that piece where the state came down on us 5 years ago with the compliance, that we were so out of compliance, had been out of compliance for many, many years. So coming into compliance was a huge, huge accomplishment. Our assessor's office took an enormous amount of flack over that, and there's still a lot of misunderstanding in the community about how the assessment values affect taxes. Still a ton of misunderstanding. So there's a lot of more work to do there, but we've got a great guy on the bus there with Todd Smith, who again can summarize that very complicated information and help people to understand that piece of the taxation process. Huge piece. We negotiated staff contracts for 3 years, which creates stability, which helps with that retention piece. And it is not out of line. We know this. We know this from the compensation study, which did market study. We know this from the unions that we dealt with, that this is what the market requires. And we know this because we now understand the demographics and the challenges of the workforce, the baby boomers leaving the workforce, and what a huge challenge that will be in the future. So we're making good decisions to retain our staff and to be better able to recruit good staff. We created the capital improvement tool with Ellers. That was amazing. I may have already mentioned that, but that enables Cook County to make really good, solid decisions for the future. The decision that we just made, the conversation we just made about the Hovland Garage, great conversation about how you save money by, it's not that you need to go crazy with this idea of building it all now. You can't build it all now. That's what the tool helps us do. The tool helps us build it out over the time it will take in an affordable way. And to me, that's fiscal responsibility in the long run. The new jail study is another way that we're looking at making fiscal responsible decisions for the future. Really looking at moving, it's not that we want to build buildings, it's that we want to improve the service that the jail provides. And a 72-hour jail is only done in 3 counties out of the 87 counties in Minnesota. We know it's not best practices in justice, let's just say that. And by adding these improvements to our jail, we can add other services which will help our families, our constituents, our citizens emotionally and more healthy in the long run. Okay, the last one, which Commissioner Dukirk sat on this committee, the EDA, The EDA, we help create a climate for the EDA to do their work. And we learned by attending workshops at AMC about the model of using the private sector, government, and nonprofit to build housing. This is the new idea out there, and we've been on board with that for the last 4 years, and the EDA accomplished 4 new houses, which are now owned and occupied for 4 families that didn't have it before, 4 more being built in Grand Marais, and then the 16 workforce housing rental units that are in process right now. Those are huge accomplishments, and I'm sure you could all, and if you want to chime in and add your flavors and to that list, I think it's a really good idea to do at the end of each year, to just look at accomplishments and summarize those and pat ourselves on the back and pat the staff on the back for all the good work that's being done, especially juxtaposed to the criticism that we've received in the last couple of weeks, which for the most part, if I heard criticism that actually made sense, I'd be on board with that. I'm open to constructive criticism. There are a lot of things that we could do better and improve on, but when the criticism is doesn't have accurate information, it's hard to. Without a two-way conversation, it's hard to take, and I don't want to end on that note. So I just want to say good work. I've enjoyed working with all of you, and keep it up. We've got some great tools, and I think the climate has changed. The climate has shifted, particularly for the climate in Cook County. And we know that by the people we've just recruited here. We've got housing going in. The Y has built a daycare center. Lots of good people in Cook County doing great work. So I am grateful to have served in this capacity and really look forward to the future and seeing what you guys will do with Dave Mills. I think it'll be fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Kind of reminded me of also helping the public to have conversation with Committee of the Whole, so that we were able to at least have a start. It's not perfect, but, you know, it's just a start, and we can improve on that in the future and see where else we can go with that. So your state of the board address was well done. Thank you so much for your service here. I've enjoyed working with you, and at 10 o'clock this morning, we had a little thank you for Commissioner Severson for the work that she's done, and I mentioned that not everybody can take 10 years out of their life to be a public servant, both with the city council and with the county. So I appreciate, on behalf of everyone here, what you've done, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you for reminding me and all of us of all the things that has been happening over the last 4 years.
Yeah,
it's tremendous.
We haven't been
it's tremendous.
sitting on our hands. Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is, for sure.
And throw in all the committees that you serve on.
Right.
And all the lives that
The
you have
regional
touched
work.
outside of here. It is a full-time plus job if you do it right.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have any meetings to note? Meetings updates?
We're tired.
Nothing, because we have holidays coming, so maybe we'll have a break except for a meeting or two here or there. So I guess my last words as far as board chair is thank you for working with me, and I working with you, and I will wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, a safe and happy holiday, and to all of the folks out there also, and look forward to a new year, 2019, coming up.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.